Brazilian flavour is something that has excited and enriched Formula One in the past handful of decades. We have seen legends like Emerson Fittipaldi, Nelson Piquet, Ayrton Senna come onto the F1 scene and reign supreme. Here we race at their home at Interlagos, between the lakes. What should be a thrilling instalment of ZRL once more. You join us in Q3 of this qualifying session, where our 10 fastest drivers are vying for supremacy, and start from the front for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix for this new season of ZRL. I am Ben McCarthy, your commentator, and thank you so very much for your company. And my oh my, we are in for a frantic race ahead of us. We're currently following the progress of Wild then in the Red Bull, coming through the end of the second sector and laying down the throttle and coming past the final few kinks of the track. We'll see the finish line in just a few moments' time as Dublin registers a time of 1:08.4. Wild displaces him by a tenth and a half. So Wild then on the provisional pole, leading his teammate Dublin as Drabaspor slots into P3. The Shumscray has a lap time deleted, running off track. Itchry slots himself up into the top three ahead of Chonk and Drabaspor. 4/10 off Wild's pace so far, but we have Cushy on a push lap now. He's trying to get a slipstream from, seems like Drabaspor ahead, and turning into turn 4. A little bit of understeer, but he's managing fine so far. So then the first few laps in Q3 are being registered, but we are following Cushy's progress in the prancing horse Ferrari, who last won here in 2017 courtesy of Sebastian Vettel, have won championships here with Kimi Räikkönen in 2007, crowned themselves Constructors' Champions in 2008, but they have certainly had to deal with ineffable heartbreak in 2008 courtesy of Felipe Massa, and in 2012 with Fernando Alonso. But what can they enjoy today? Leo Kreitas for Ferrari is currently 6th. He's now 7th as Cushy leaps up into the top 5. Cushy, just south of half a second behind Wild's provisional pole time so far, as F1 Jacob in the Alpine is setting a blistering middle sector. Through the final kink then for F1 Jacob, he's raging towards the line. It's a lap time of a 1:08.312, and by 6 milliseconds, let me say that again, by 6 milliseconds, Jacob hits the front. For one of the shortest laps of the season, we are already investing in perilously close battles. So then Duncan in the Alpha Tauri, he looks to set his first lap time in Q3. Let's see what he can do into the middle sector, which requires a lot more downforce, particularly on the front end, going through a part of the circuit where Lewis Hamilton crashed out in qualifying in 2017. But these really are the tight, twisty, winding corners now. Duncan just has to be precise. Too early, you'll spin the car around. Too late, and you lose a handful of time. But Duncan, through the first 2 sectors, looks decent. AlphaTauri, when they were Toro Rosso in the penultimate race of Toro Rosso, finished second, courtesy of Pierre Gasly in 2019 in one of the most epic races in modern F1. Duncan, though, for where Gasly qualified in 2019, Duncan is in that same spot. P7, half a second off the pace. We have a flurry of drivers on outlaps ready to set Another means of improving in this session. We have yellow flags out on track. That's one of the Red Bulls slowing down just to bring the temperatures down. But drivers like Itschrei are now starting a lap, and it's into turn 1 then, into the center S's, chucking the front end in, hoping the rear end will comply. Itschrei keeping within track limits, but only just. He is pushing the limits, he's pushing the boundaries, and he is throwing absolutely everything into this latest attempt. He's 12 milliseconds off his best time through the first third of the lap. But this is where you find a lot of time through the middle sector. You have to be inch perfect on every entry, every apex, every exit. And as his teammate who sits on provisional pole retires from the session, Itschrei is looking to reel him in. Into turn 10, where Lewis Hamilton famously collided with Alex Albon at the climax of the 2019 Brazilian Grand Prix. It looks like Itschrei has slowed down, and he's getting rid of this latest attempt. Dublin improving through the first sector. Trabzonspor improving to P3, just below a tenth behind Jacob, as Wilde now is setting an electrifying middle sector. The Red Bull is finally showing his hand. His first attempt was quelled by Jacob, but this attempt will not be quelled by the Alpine. Jacob will not be continuing in this session as Weil stretches his legs and opens up an advantage in qualifying. A stunning lap of a 1.8 flat. Dublin then. He was P4, he's now P2. It's all Red Bull front row for the moment. And he is about a quarter of a tenth behind his teammate Weil. These two bulls are locking horns, and it's at the moment Weil who holds the upper hand. Now, I am certainly ready to be treated to a tour of the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, also known as Interlagos. And Cushy is going to take us on that ride across 4.3 kilometres of tarmac. It is going to be rapid speed, electrifying entertainment, and scintillation achieved by the Ferrari. He sits P7 provisionally. He will look to improve through the Cenareses and onto the Destino del Lago. You want a good exit as you open DRS and clock up the top end speed into turn 4, opening up the corner, getting the front end flicked in, putting down the power and raging away once more. Into turn 6 and 7, Cushy goes. On board with the Ferrari now. Turns into turn 8. It looks smooth from the prancing horse, but a lot of curb taken there is going to certainly curtail the speed. You have to be sharp, so sharp around this circuit, and Cushy is being sharp enough to find an improvement through the middle sector by over a tenth. The exit now off of turn 12 is just imperative, because you're clocking up the speed and it's foot to the floor up until the line, and Cushy improves to the top 5, just over half a second behind Weil's pole time. Itschrei now improving, the latest driver to improve through the first sector. We have Leo Kreitis slowing down, we have Chonk slowing down on their outlaps, but Itschrei in the Alpine through the middle sector now, getting the front end turned in, laying down the power, standing on the loud pedal and bringing down the speed once more. We are seeing the art of driving. We are seeing a mesmerising image of speed here at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, and Itschrei by 4/10 through the middle sector in finding a sizable improvement. Could he be troubling the front runners? Foot to the floor as he sees the finish line now in what may be his last attempt in qualifying. It's a half a second improvement, which brings him P3, and he out-qualifies his teammate. Duncan currently sitting P5 in the AlphaTauri. You have Drapaspor also going for yet another lap, and it seems like Duncan is just letting the drivers through. His session seems like it's completed. Cushy is going for one final attempt. Chonk is on that final attempt. So too is the Shumsquay and Leo Crisis, who has thrown it away by going off-road. But the two Red Bulls in formation, while ahead of Dublin, not only on the road, but on the leaderboard as well. It's the last dart attempt to give it absolutely everything. All the planning, all the practice, it yields this, the final attempt. At the quickest part of the event, these Q3 times are bringing about sensation, they're bringing about scintillation. And through the first sector and through the middle sector, both Red Bulls go. It's Schreier Pitts, he set his final lap time, which was good enough for P3, while improving by half a tenth through the middle sector. Dublin improved through the first sector. He's going to arrive towards turn 12 in a moment's time, and he's improving by less than a tenth. The two Red Bulls still very much in battle. Wiles on provisional pole. He extends his stronghold on pole position to a tenth and a half. But Dublin, foot to the floor, to the line, to find his final attempt, bringing about only P2 by 86 milliseconds. He misses out on pole position to his teammate. So it's a Red Bull 1-2 here at Interlagos. And between the lakes, it is Weil who rose above the rest as his opposition drown in depths of despair. So then it is Weil who will start from pole position here at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. He leads Dublin in a Red Bull 1-2. The Alpines lock out the second row. We have Duncan in P5, Drapaspor ahead of his teammate, the Shumsquay in 6th. Then we have Cushy, Chonk and Leo Critus rounding out the top 10. So, we're in for a fascinating instalment of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix in 2022, courtesy of Zoom Racing League, the finest drivers of Xbox splashing onto the scene here for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix and are about to ignite in an epic tale of entertainment. The clock ticks down to the start of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. We will have 36 laps ahead of us as the drivers will start their formation lap. Okay, here we go.
Will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure that their car is ready for the battle once the lights go out. As the cars make their way back to the starting grid to form up and get ready for lights out, let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix.
So then, thank you very much for that, Crofty. Maybe perhaps a tad unnecessary, but we welcome him nonetheless. But the drivers completing their formation laps and are ready to race for 36 laps around the Interlagos circuit. So many epic tales have been written around this track. What's more is ready to be written here at ZRL as we go racing for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. It's a great start there from Dublin, but it seems like Weil is going to have him covered off. It's Shrine launching an attack on the Red Bull. He's going to dance and dazzle around the outside. Does he make the move stick? They're going to draw perilously close to one another. We have a spinner. It looks like Grabersport, who's dropping down the order, but Dublin keeping its Shrine at bay as F1 Jacob in fourth. We can see the Shumskre actually now drawing side by side with the Alpine, granting himself the inside line and fourth place. The Aston Martin getting his elbows out on the very first lap. You can see the drivers and their starting tyre choices. You can see that the Red Bulls utilising those medium compound tyres to effect. They maintain track position as Logan and XTR Red ignite in battle. The Mercedes man holds the upper hand, but Logan putting down the power and spinning round, losing the rear in a dramatic way. And he sinks down to last place on the leaderboard, bringing out the yellow flags. But that sets back the Haas so very early on in this race. And from wheel-to-wheel battles and wonder, it is despair for the Haas. But Weil leads this race by a healthy margin, by over half a second. But remember, on the next lap, we will have DRS enabled. The big winners from the race, from the first lap, the Shumskre, XTR Red are the biggest winners. The biggest losers, it's got to be Drabersport, Leokritis and Chonk. But we can see now the Shumskre is not just satisfied by getting past one Alpine, he's going to make it two in the space of a lap. It tries the latest to fall prey to the Shumskre. The Shumskre's awesome attack, and he's up into the podium places. So lap 2 of 36 here for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Weil has converted pole into a second lap lead as Logan goes for a spin once more, and that will drop him yet further back from the field. DRS will be enabled on the next lap, and that will certainly aid overtaking. This track is relatively favourable to overtaking, proven by Lewis Hamilton's charge from 20th in the sprint to Grand Prix victory on the Sunday. But particularly with these new 2022 Formula 1 cars, expect thrilling battles up and down the field. And you can see Logan taking himself off-road once more. And this has been a race of unbelievable misery for Logan. He's more than 20 seconds behind. The driver ahead is Drabersport and last paper going side by side. Drabersport getting ahead after his spin on lap 1. He is birthing a race revive on lap 3 and does that by getting past last paper. Now Duncan leads Cushy. Cushy leads XTR Red in this three-way battle for 6th place. We're on board with the XTR Red, who is choosing different race lines, opening up the corner, looking to get past the Ferraris. The Shumskre going for a spin on towards turn 11, and what was a podium and a rostrum placed provisionally after a lightning start. And it's the perfect juxtaposition of wonder and despair for the Aston Martin, the Schunsprey dropping down into 8th place and way out of podium contention. But Dublin is reeling in his teammates Wild. They're going to battle on towards turn 4. The two bulls locking horns on lap 4 of this Sao Paulo Grand Prix, separated by less than half a second. Now it seems like Cushy, after getting past XTR Red behind Cushy, but Cushy still launching an attack on Duncan. Looking to the outside, perhaps chancing a move. He isn't able to do just that. This is where the track really starts to tighten up, and overtakes are just that much more tricky. But he's still very much within striking distance as XTR Red braking almost too late into the corner there of turn 9, but managed to get it stopped. But there is a bit of a DRS train forming behind It's Shry. But let's see if any moves can be made. XTR Red is still harrying Cushy, but Cushy is still within striking range of Duncan. The two bulls still in formation. Wild leading the race ahead of Dublin. Dublin having DRS, he may think to conserve his battery and think about attacking later on. They're 4 seconds ahead of It's Shry, who is third for Alpine. So it may just be a race of strategy. Last paper ahead of Chonk, but the Alfa Romeo fighting into turn 4. Is he getting close enough to make an impression? No, he isn't. But on exits, he's able to put the power down that much earlier. And he edges ever closer to the silver arrow, wandering off into turn 6. He isn't able to make the move just yet. XTR Red still can see the Ferrari rear wing ahead of him, almost seeming larger and larger and larger. But in this DRS train, overtaking is that much more tricky. Now Dublin does look a lot closer to his teammate. Down the start-finish race, yellow flags have been brought out as Leo Kreitis off-road, losing a handful of positions. Dublin in the battle, in his pursuit of the lead, is not letting his teammates breathe for 1 second. So many brilliant battles have been registered through the years here at Interlagos. The two Red Bulls at the moment are creating one right now. Weil has led this race from the start, but he is coming under fierce pressure from his teammates. And here comes Drabaspor around the outside of Drunk X6. Forced to the outside, forced off-road, and he isn't able to promote himself up into the top 9 as B-Boy Simba joins this battle. Here comes Chonk. Oh, he edges so close there too. Oh, and there's B-Boy Simba. Chonk's teammate goes off-road, facing the wrong way, and drops down into 14th. We know this track is very demanding and very biting of all mistakes, and we are just learning why. Weil still leading, Dublin still second, It's Shry still ahead of his teammates, but Cushy is so close to Duncan, but he's not close enough to really get past him into turn 1. Oh, is that a late braking moment there from XTR Red? No, it just seems like he's lagging a little bit. Dublin getting closer and closer, lap after lap after lap. He is not losing sight of his teammates, and he's looking to pounce upon any mistake Weil makes. Drabaspor and Drunk X6 going side by side once more into turn 4. This time, is it Drabaspor that gets ahead? It is. He had the inside line, and eventually with it, he had 9th place. Been a thrilling race, and the two Red Bulls have been going absolutely flat out so far. XTR Red though into turn 12, we were on board with him there. Maybe he's still lagging a little bit, but Cushy is pouncing on an opportunity that Duncan is presenting him. The Ferrari and the AlphaTauri looking to go side by side. Cushy then slots in behind. Is he able to launch an attack going into turn 1? The Sennaresses? No, he isn't. But back to Dublin, who is so close now. He has DRS to his aid, and by the end of the straight, He has cleared his teammate. It's a swap of position between the two Red Bulls, but Weil puts the power down as he sees his teammate drift out wide. He's coming back. The two Red Bulls going hammer and tong here at Interlagos. And in this battle, it is Weil that still has the upper hand. Seems like XTR Red is lagging there as he gets past Cushy. So the Mercedes, the Silver Arrow, up into the top 6 now. Round 2 perhaps imminent between these Red Bulls. Dublin thought he had the lead, but he went a little bit too deep going into turn 4. Weil punished him, and he still leads out in front. Duncan, though, look how close he is to Jacob. Jacob's dropped behind a second to his teammate, so he must have made a mistake. Duncan, though, drifting out wide, going through the kink there, which may compromise his straight line speed. Forward with Duncan. What's the exit look like through the first 3 corners? They look encouraging, but perhaps not encouraging enough to really unsettle Jacob going into turn 4. The Alpine tries to break the toe, but he's under no real threat there. XTR Red ahead of Cushy, the Ferrari, down into 7th. He's dropped behind a second behind XTR Red, so despite the Mercsman's lagging, he's still very much competitive in this race, and down the inside, he dares a move. He lags once more, loses the rear slightly, and he isn't able to battle past. And we're getting interesting information at the moment. Itshrai is about 7 seconds behind Weil and Dublin, so it shows that the medium tyres are keeping up a decent pace lap after lap after lap, and if they have the durability, the two Red Bulls can race away into the Sao Paulo day. As it seems like they're Weil getting past Dublin. Is this a permanent move for the lead? Can he make it stick going down the Destino del Lago? Was it a mistake that's granted Dublin the lead? We will have to see. He's trying to break the toe going past the Destino del Lago and into turn 4, and Dublin is converting this opportunity into the lead going into sector 2. Itshrai now ahead of Jacob, ahead of XTR Red, ahead of Duncan, ahead of Cushy. Meanwhile, we have Chonk chasing down the final points, paying position. Drunk X6 occupies it for the moment. The Alfa Romeo catching him down the straights, but not catching him enough. Turn 4 comes a lot quicker than he would have wanted. We're inching towards a third distance in this, the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, with Dublin now leading ahead of Weil. The two Red Bulls have been battling brilliantly at the start of this race. Will this battle sustain? Well, Weil is coming at his teammates with the use of DRS. They are returning the compliments lap after lap after lap. One lap, the driver behind is getting a lovely slipstream and seizing the lead. And it may be role reversed next time out, but it is now Weil that leads the race once more. Here comes Chonk down the inside of Drunk X6 into turn 1. A bit of contact between the pair. They look like they've emerged unscathed, but the Alfa Romeo progresses up into the points paying positions. So we're now into our 11th lap of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix with the two Red Bulls in serene form at the moment. Yes, they are on the softer, medium compound tyres, but their speed that they showed in qualifying has been translated into the Grand Prix itself. But the two Alpines will be very, very thrilled with their progress so far on the hard compound tyres. They're keeping ahead of the likes of XTR Red, Duncan and Cushy, and are, well, under no real threat. But with DRS in action down the start-finish straight and on towards turn 4, Dublin looks to close in on Weil. Jacob looks to close in on his teammate Itshrai. We have inter-team battles taking hold here in Sao Paulo, with Weil edging the Red Bull battle and Itshrai edging the Alpine battle. Drunk X6 is getting back ahead of Chonk. Seems like down the start finish straight, the Haas progressing past and making 10th place his own once more. But the Alfa Romeo fighting back to the race down towards turn 4. The Alfa Romeo hunting for the inside line. He will seize the inside line, and with it, he seizes back 10th place. Drunk X Sigs wanted to have the response, but the Alfa Romeo held his own and will look to maintain this 10th place for corners and laps to come. We've now reached the end of lap 12. This race is blasting by at a rate of knots, while still leading Dublin, keeping him under fierce pressure. These two are going to be lapping Logan in a very short moments of time. And it's been a horrid race for Logan, who spun multiple times in the first few laps and has just not been able to sustain race challenging pace. Leo Kreitas closing in on last paper. They're going to go side by side down the start finish straight. The Ferrari edging ahead. The Mercedes, with the straight line speed deficit, has no response. So Leo Kreitas up into 12th, but he goes a bit deep going into turn 2. Last paper looking to respond emphatically, but he responds very, very poorly as the rear end drifts away from him. And his chances of seizing back that 12th place dwindle. Through turn 12 once more for these two. The two Red Bulls leading and showing their speed conspicuously. They have left the rest for dust so far in this first third of the race. Can they translate that into a dream finish for the Milton Keynes outfit? Seems like Jacob and XTR Red have raced away from Duncan and Cushy. The AlphaTauri and the Ferrari are not going to be having DRS. That is going to drop them out of the battle with yellow flags through the first sector. And it seems like Duncan, yes, Duncan, dropping down the order, losing the rear once, losing the rear twice. The drivers fly past him and say thank you very much in their actual acquisition of an improved position. And that's heartache there. It really is for Duncan, who looks in a promising position to fight for the podium places. At the very least, a top 5 place, but you could not really count him out of the hunt, but it seems like you can now. A real shame there for the AlphaTauri, who is running just so well. Two Red Bulls have now lapped the Haas of Logan. Dublin is left to hunt down his teammates going into the Senna S's. You have a sellout crowd here at Interlagos cheering on our valiant drivers. The two Red Bulls executing a fine race so far, flat out from lap 1 to lap 15. And it's been an absolute joy. XTR Red looking to make an impression though on Jacob. You think on lap 15 these medium compound tyres would be wearing out, but XTR Red can see that Alpine rear wing getting so much larger now. And he's willing to assert his presence in this battle for 4th place. And now we have the safety car deployed as Logan loses his front wing. So then, the full safety car has been deployed, and that will stack the drivers back up amongst one another. And we are in for an interesting, intriguing, riveting next chapter of this Sao Paulo Grand Prix. The two Red Bulls looked ominous out in front, but their lead is going to be slashed to zilch under this safety car period, while Pit Dublin drops behind him, just so that when he does pit, he does not have to double stack and pay the consequences for that. But it seems like everybody is now coming into the pits, the top 5 coming to the pits, the top 6 coming to the pits, make that the top 7. Traversport though, he's on the hard compound tyres, he's going to come into the pits as well. So his strategy, along with the two Alpines, has not been particularly ideal, though they pit to the medium compound tyres. And if it can sustain a decent longevity in terms of tyre wear, the Alpines could be brought right back into play here. Drunk X6 staying out on track. This is going to be interesting to see where he remains on track. It may be P5, and it will indeed be P5 for the Haas. Gaining places, but of course has not made his pit stop. We are not far away from halfway distance in the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. The two Red Bulls have been dominant so far. They are about to face the biggest threat to their advantage in this race so far. Under the safety car, the drivers close up to them, and there may be a battle coming on for the lead. It seems like Drunk X6 now pits. Drunk X6 pitting will drop out of the top 10. Having said that, yeah, he's going to drop behind his teammates as well. It will probably be Last Paper and B-Boy Simba getting past him as well. We'll have to see. Drunk X6 is now on pit exit. Last Paper will definitely get past him. B-Boy Simba, will he? They're going to be so close on pit exit. But it seems like the Haas just about ahead. So then the safety car will come in at the end of this lap while with assumed control, and will get us back racing here in Sao Paulo. When does he choose to pin down the throttle? He's going to be vulnerable going into turn 1. He may choose to go as late as possible. We will have to see. In fact, he's gone now, and he's leaving his teammates for dust. So then, we are back racing on lap 18 of 36 here at Sao Paulo. It seems like some drivers have not had a particularly good start. Cushy is under fierce pressure from the Schumskrey in the Aston Martin. And it seems like there's contact as Last Paper now retires from the race. Mercedes, the Silver Arrows, falls at the latest hurdle in this race. And on lap 18 of 36, we have lost our first driver. Drunk X6 and Duncan trying to make moves on one another as the Schumskrey finally gets past the Ferrari of Cushy. Cushy really struggling with his tyres and really struggling with speed at this safety car restart, and he is losing. Well, he's lost a place. He may lose yet more. Back to the top 3. Itchry is utilising these medium compound tyres and is looking to launch an attack on the two Red Bulls. Weil and Dublin looked ridiculously dominant at the start of this race, but this safety car has brought us an intriguing moment. Is this the only pit stop Itchry will have to make? Is the pendulum swinging before the Alpine? We will have to see, but he is keeping Dublin honest, and he is crafting a plan to win this race, or at least get himself up into the top 2. Leo Kreitis right behind Chonk. The Alfa Romeo tries to keep the Ferrari at bay, and this is the final lap before DRS is enabled. Chonk will want to get within DRS of Dravascore ahead, but I don't think that is going to happen as Leo Kreitis dives to the inside of turn 4. He forces the Alfa Romeo out wide. Chonk, he's not going to relinquish this position, but he may just have to. They're going to run side by side into turn 6. The Alfa Romeo down the inside assumes control once more. Theo Crichton is doing absolutely everything to make a move. As you can see, B-Boy Simba losing a place to Drunk X6. The Alfa Romeo going in a little bit too deep. Oh no, Chunk! The race and the car getting away from the Alfa Romeo as B-Boy Simba makes it 2 Alfa Romeo spinners in a matter of seconds. It's the lap from hell for Alfa Romeo, who lose competitive positions in 2 moments. And in 2 moments, it is going to absolutely shatter the hearts of the men and women back in that camp. But Weil is not racing away from Dublin for the moment. Dublin has DRS on his teammates. Itch-Dry is keeping the 2 Red Bulls honest. But we're on board, and we're off board Traversport now, who is looking to seize control of 7th place. Cushy is hanging it around the outside. But this effort to keep Traversport at bay is not going to sustain for Cushy. Traversport leaps up into 7th place. We are over halfway through this Sao Paulo Grand Prix. We have yellow flags out in Sector 2. I believe that is Chonk, who has slowed down. Seems like he's gone for another spin and may have caught some front wing damage. But Dublin, look how close he is to his teammates with DRS in action and with Slipstream available to him as well. He's gained so much down the start-finish rate and will gain once more going through the Destino de Largo. The 2 Red Bulls have been inseparable in this race so far. Dublin is not willing to yield in his quest for a race victory. Weil, though, is seizing every initiative and he's using every trick in the book to keep his teammates in his mirrors. Still, Dublin is within DRS. Let's ride on board then with the 2nd Red Bull in this race, turning into turn 12, locking the rear slightly, but still makes the apex, can put down the power cleanly, and he has a chance on the next lap. He will have DRS. He has the slipstream, but he opts not to use it for part of the straight. Maybe he's happy running behind his teammates, saving battery, which gives him a better chance of a healthy battery and a competitive running longer into the race. Itch-Dry, though, is just over half a second behind the race leader. The top 3 split by less than half a second. This is unpredictability at its absolute finest. The pendulum has swung back and forth, and it's swinging towards the presence of Itch-Dry, who can see Dublin ahead of him. But Dublin may just be clinging on to this 2nd place. Could the Alpine finally break the trap which is resisting his charge and his path to the race lead? He's utilising these softer, medium compound tyres. And he has a chance in this race. XTR Red running in P4 from Mercedes is holding his own ahead of Jacob, who of course has a time penalty due to track limit violations. But the 2 Red Bulls ignite in battle down the start-finish straight. Weil still ahead. Weil still ahead of his teammate, but goes a little bit deep into turn 1. Dublin and Itch-Dry are hot on his heels. On board with Dublin, who gets a handsome exit off of turn 3. He can see his teammate getting so much closer to him into turn 4. He's not able to make the move, and Itch-Dry thoughts about to move. He can see Dublin running out wide. He rejoins side by side and will rejoin behind the Alpine. Itch-Dry has made his move. He spooked Dublin out and off the racing line and assumes control of 2nd place in this race. Juggernaut that has been Red Bull so far in this race have been dealt a blow. Itch-Dry leaps up ahead of 1 Red Bull and is going to hunt down another. Explorer and the Shumskrey swapping positions, and that's because the Shumskrey has gone off-road, drops down into P10, will most probably be P11 soon. And how this race can turn in the blink of an eye. It uses DRS to close right up on Wiles' race lead. The deficit is barely anything right now. The Alpine has DRS through the Decino de Largo. He's getting so close to the race leader into turn 4. He made a move here on the last lap. It's not 2 laps in a row for him as Logan once more goes for a spin and adds to the tally of misery he's had in this race so far, and he clobbers the barriers once more. We are reaching 2/3 distance in this race. Wiles still leads ahead of Itchry. Dublin is 4th. XTR is 4th, with Jacob in 5th. The top 5 separated by a DRS threat. This is going to be very interesting indeed, but Dublin showing his speed down the start-finish straight. The top-end speed's really coming about in that Red Bull, but he's not close enough to retake the place on the Alpine. What's the exit look like off of the Senna S's? Not promising enough, it seems, to really launch an attack on Itchry. And with the Alpine having DRS on the race leader, it is going to keep the Dublin at bay, or is it because down the inside? It's a dauntless dare to the inside for Dublin. Is he going to make the move? No, Itchry keeping him at bay. Round 1 is contested and won by the Alpine. But you feel like Dublin has the speed at the moment to repass him. Two Red Bulls, 2 Alpines and a Merc in the top 5. A thrilling contest has been enjoyed so far, and in the next 11 laps we're going to have a fantastic ending to this race. On board then with Itchry, and thanks to Wiles' 4 exits off of turn 12, Itchry is closing in on the race leader. Dublin isn't close enough, and on lap 26 of 36, Itchry, it has to be a matter of him taking the lead soon, because the grip will really start to fall off of those tyres. Interlagos is relatively punishing in terms of tyre wear. Itchry will hope to eke out fantastic tyre management. As you can see, Drunk X6 closing on Leo Crisis going into turn 4. We've seen many moves here earlier on in the race, and Drunk X6 makes it yet another one. As the rear got away from him slightly, he still managed to regain control and gain 9th place in this race. Here is your race leader, who is coming under the most fierce, the most tense, the most nerving, the most palpitating pressure you could fathom. Itchry is not leaving this battle, and is about half a second behind the race leader. How close is he? What threat does he pose on this lap with 10 tours remaining of this Sao Paulo Grand Prix? These drivers are going to get past Logan very, very shortly. It's Duncan, it looks like he's spun out of turn 12. The AlphaTauri down into P12 now, but on board with Itchry. He looks closer to Wiles, but he's just not close enough going into turn 4. Chances are coming, chances are going for Itchry, but he's still in the battle. He just still is in the battle, and he is keeping Wiles occupied and worried. Oh, and you can see Chonk around the outside of Duncan into turn 1. And Chonk is up into 12th place. The rear end really getting away from Itchry. That's going to penalise him as Dublin reels him in. The exit off of turn 12 is just so imperative, because you're flat out to the line, but Itchry with DRS is still questioning Wile's occupation of the lead. The top three separated by 0.7 of a second with 9 laps left. And through the Decino de Largo, the Alpine is just that much closer on this lap, but is happy to settle in behind going into turn 4, knowing that the battery, the healthy battery that he is gaining from running within the slipstream of the race leader, is really helping him out. Leocritus with DRS on Drunk X6. The Shumskray is joining the battle and is going around the outside of one car and is trying to get past another. The Shumskray, he's going to make it 2 passes in 1. And it's a dash of daring delight from the Aston Martin, who crafted the move with calculation and executed it with exquisiteness. My word, what a move that was. But Itshrai still keeping Wile worried. As Drunk X6 repasses the Shumskray, the Haas, back up into 8th place. But the top 4, you can see, are separated by 1.3 seconds. What a race this has been. Sees the Shumskray once more, passing Drunk X6 and then gives the Aston Martin a tap. The Haas then has to run out wide. Leocritus is going to spot the opportunity to go around the outside of the Senna S's. It's not going to be able to work initially, but on exit with DRS in use, he pulls to the outside. The Haas is hell-bent in keeping his 9th place and remains in P9. Itshrai has not looked closer than this. Within half a second as they cross the DRS point. And he's so close now. Wile is going to be looking in his mirrors with desperation. On lap 30 of 36, the lead is nearly nothing. Here at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, it has been a race of utter scintillation so far. The opening stages looked like it'd be a dominant ride for the Red Bull duo. But it seems like Itshrai bringing himself into this race and giving the race leader a tap. He escapes damage, so too does Wile, but he's letting Wile know that he is so in this battle for the race lead. Through the tight, twisty corners, Wile is struggling on the hard compound tyres. The degradation is not as bad as what I would have feared. Dublin, who started this race from the front row, looks on as his teammate clings on to the race lead. And Dublin losing the rear, almost getting away from him as it seems like Drunk X6 running off-road to the exit of turn 6. Turn 6, turn 7, my apologies. But Dublin, he's so close now to Itshrai. They both have DRS, but the Red Bull has the better exit. He's hunting for the inside line into turn 1. Is he going to make the move? They're fractionally close to contact, but the Alpine holds his own. They put down the throttle off of the exit of turn 2, and Itshrai, somehow, some way, is still in 2nd place. But round 2 is going to be contested. He's racing into turn 4. Dublin down the inside. He tries to make the move. He gives Itshrai a bit of a tap. They rejoin the battle with the Alpine still just about ahead. And he stays ahead going into turn 6, but XTR Red looking to the outside and spins. It must have been contact between the pair, which has seen XTR Red lose out horridly. He was P4, he is now P7, and the race just gets away from him. We approach the final 5 laps of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. It has been a mighty rate of measure and madness so far. Dublin wants to get past Itshrai. He sees his teammate leading out in front. He wants to join him in the top 2. Itshrai trying to hang it around the outside of turn 1, and Julie does so. Dublin It is turning into a laboured task to get past Itchright, but he's given him an opening. That's the Alpine. Dublin seizes the opportunity and at long last steals back second place. It is once more a Red Bull 1-2 here at Interlagos. At a track where a Red Bull have not had a 1-2 since 2013. They are in prime position to make it a 1-2 now. Weil still leads, but Dublin is growing in this race. Just when it matters, Dublin is really starting to show his speed. He's within DRS range of his teammates, and with just 4 laps to go, he is sniffing an opportunity. He can see the prize ahead of him, but it's down to him to seize it. 4 laps to go here at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. It is anyone's game now. It is coming down to rip-roaring racecraft, which could be the difference between fantasy and failure. About 2 seconds separate the top 4 in this race. Remember though that Jacob has a 3-second time penalty, so we'll drop down into P5. But we are really now starting to feel the peerless presence of Dublin in this race. At long last, he got past Itchright, and now he is closing in on his teammate. The dying stages of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, the 2 Red Bulls back once again in battle. But Dublin is ready to give it his all. Weil is waiting in the wings to just unsettle the nerves. But will he be able to do that? 3 more tours to go of this race. We're on board with XTR Reds, who is getting so much closer now to Cushy. They're going to battle it into turn 1. The Mercedes not able to get past for the moment. Dublin, though, is he able to make the move on towards turn 4? No, he's going to settle in behind. He wants the benefit off of the slipstream. He wants to charge up that battery to launch an ominous attack in the final 2 laps. But here's XTR Red around the outside of Cushy. We've seen some wild and wondrous overtakes so far in this race, but that is a crisp move there from XTR Red, and the Silver Arrow blasts past the wounded prancing horse, who has to relinquish 6th place. Itchright has dropped back from the top 2. Jacob looks the quicker of the 2 Alpines, but of course he carries that time penalty, and that is going to drag him all away from the battle for not only the race lead but the podium places as well. Dublin's chances are reducing. He prays that he can spot a mistake from Weil, and it seemed like it could be that through the apex of turn 2. But how close is he? Can he sustain an attack going into turn 4? Weil had pretty much led this race from the green flag up until the imminence of the checkered flag. It has been a brilliant battle between the 2 Red Bulls, who have made this Interlagos stage theirs, carrying the weight of an energy drinks company and waving the flag for its fans. They're just over 4 kilometers away from seeing the checkered flag. They're about to start their final lap 36 of 36. We're on board with Dublin. The chances have come, the chances have gone, but this could be his last chance, a last gasp attack on this final lap. Weil started this race from pole. He's resisted the urge and temptation of the beguiling force of Dublin behind, but could it be one last staggering dream for Dublin on this final lap? He thought about a move going into turn 4, but he was reluctant. His last chance will probably come down the start-finish straight. We watch our two race leaders who have gone hammer and tong for race-winning glory. Doubling sought after a lead that he has craved to hold since the very start of this race. He looks to seize it at the last moment, going down the start-finish straight. But what a race it has been between these two. It looks like the two bulls are going to be in formation to the checkered flag. Weil started this race from pole. He sees his teammates gaining on him to the checkered flag, but it is Weil who soaks in celebratory sensation by the merest, slenderest of margins. Itchrive comes home for third. Jacob, with his penalty, will drop down to fifth behind Draversport. And it's the race to the line between these drivers. Logan retires from the race as he crossed the line and he careered into the wall. But Weil is your race winner here in Sao Paulo, around Interlagos, and the fervent Brazilian crowd bowed before his brilliance. Chong with DRS on Duncan. Can he get the measure of the AlphaTauri as they reach the line? No, by what was less than a tenth, but with the 3-second time penalty, it was just not enough in the end. But your race winner, Weil, drove a sublime race, minimised mistakes and maximised the opportunity. So then, Weil is your race winner, converting pole into the victory here at Interlagos. So then, on this day where speed was realised, racecraft was rewarded, and where the winners were recognised as well. It has been an epic Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Interlagos never ceases to disappoint, and it certainly didn't on this Sao Paulo Saturday. Weil, your race winner for Red Bull, and he drove a near perfect race. So then, one and all, thank you so very much for your company. It has been a fantastic race. Nail-biting moments to the checkered flag, but it is there, Weil, who wins the race. Make sure you return for when ZRL returns, courtesy of the X Division, where our finest Xbox drivers give it absolutely everything in pursuit of glory. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, it has been me, Ben McCarthy, and I'll see you next time.